that was a good setup for what I wanted to talk about today, but I want to reintroduce myself again. So my name is Paul. How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you very much for sticking around for the last speech of the night. But a little bit about me. I was a former Team USA gymnast, also competed for the University of Illinois. And I really have a very unique experience. You know, gymnastics is not a very common activity that you do, you know, especially as a male. You know, maybe, I mean, let's start off. Do you guys know anything about men's gymnastics? Probably not, right? Like, what does that mean? You know, I was a professional male gymnast for 6 years. That probably doesn't hit home for any of you guys. So I want to ask, can anybody tell me how many events there are in men's gymnastics? Take a guess, anybody? 6. A lot of you guys got it. It was 6. The girls are 4. So my job consisted of these 6 events, right? It was the floor exercise, where you run around and do flips on a bouncy mat. There was the pommel horse, where you swing your legs around using your hands. The still rings, where you swing around through handstands, right, hanging. The vault, where you run as fast as you can at a stationary object and try to stick the landing. The parallel bars, you swing between 2 parallel bars, and the horizontal bar, where you swing around on 1 horizontal bar. Self-explanatory. But I found myself in a really strange situation, right? I graduated from college, wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I had this ability, and it was gymnastics. And it ended up taking me on a roller coaster. You know, it took me around the world, doing those 6 events, and every single time I competed on those 6 events, I found myself in a very similar situation, you know, a situation of feeling uncertain, a feeling of super high anxiety, a flood of emotions, you know, and it was really, really difficult to figure out how I was going to perform with those feelings inside, you know, because sometimes I was performing in front of 10 people, sometimes I was performing in front of 1,000 people, sometimes 15,000 people, sometimes millions on TV. So it was really important in my career to find a tool that allowed me to deal with that sort of stress. And I've always wanted to tell people about this, so bear with me. But a teammate of mine from Stanford, it was the funniest thing. You would find him at competitions, and he had this technique that he would use to deal with the pressure. And I would find him in the back corners of a competition, you know, in huge arenas all over the world, and he would just be hiding in the back corner. And what he was doing is as follows. I'm going to demonstrate, so bear with me. He would, at a gymnastics competition, put his stuff down, and do a handstand. I still got it. But the theory behind it was that when he would go upside down and do a handstand, he allowed the blood flow to go to his brain, and he could slow down his breathing, slow down his heart rate. He could think clear, he could gather his thoughts, and focus on the task at hand. So I never took it as serious as him. I never went and did handstands at a competition, at a gymnastics competition. It was kind of outrageous, but I would do a standing pike stretch. So I would just hang out like this, you know, as I was getting ready for my apparatus, shake my arms out a little bit, and it really helped me to achieve a sense of clarity. So that being said, I used this a million times, you know, all around the world, and it was always successful until one moment. You know, it was the climax of my career. It was my 2nd time at the Olympic trials. You know, as a gymnast, what's the bigger, you know, goal? You know, that was my goal since I was a little tiny child, you know, was to be named to the Olympic team. And this was my 2nd go around. And the first go around, I was just coming out of college, a Division I athlete, kind of an underdog, not someone who really had any business trying to make an Olympic team. And I found myself in a different situation going into the 2nd time. You know, I had much more of a deep athletic experience, I was competing all over the world. I was on 4 world championship teams, which is the Olympic team in a non-Olympic year. And on top of my improved athletic achievements, I really was in a better position. The selection committee had identified me as a select few group that was going to go to Brazil, was going to feel out the environment there. We were testing out the humidity in the air. Was it going to affect how we held onto the bars? Was it going to change? We used honey, so humidity always changed how we would set the bars up. But really, I was in a really good position, going into this second Olympic trials, and it was just so much pressure, guys. Like, you have no idea. I walked into that Olympic trials in St. Louis, Missouri, in Chaifetz Arena, and I got a really bad draw. I had to do my best event first. So it was my last, final, and only opportunity to showcase my talents for the world, right? So great, I had to go first on my best event at Olympic trials. So I get there, and, I made the best of the situation. I did everything that I normally do. I stepped up onto the stage and looked at the judges right there. We were on an elevated platform, a little bit higher than this. Looked at the judges, looked at the full house at Chaifetz Arena, looked at the selection committee, and I had, that one moment, that 1 minute to prove myself in front of everybody. And I did my thing, I got up there, put the chalk on, bent over, tried to breathe and get the blood flowing to my brain. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out in that moment. I ended up falling on my best event, and it was heartbreaking. But in that moment, I didn't learn anything in that moment, but I was able to rely, I was able to rely on my past experiences, and it really was a 20-year competitive career. From age 7 until 27, I competed in gymnastics, and it's become my life. And I've learned, that no matter what, setting a goal is so important, right? We're going to have these goals, and even more importantly than having these goals, we have to have goals that are going to be mobile with our lives, So if you go out to achieve this and it doesn't happen, I think it kind of speaks to all the speeches we've heard tonight. If you go out to achieve one goal, it might not happen. You're going to have to pick another one. And I think that the second goal or the third goal or fourth goal or the 100th goal is going to be the best goal for you. And really the only thing that I have to say about, achieving your goals is the only things that you need are hard work, dedication, and resilience. There's really no other way of achieving your goals. And without those things, it's really tough, to achieve what you want. And so obviously bring those things to the table when you're setting your goal for the future. And too often, I think, as I know, I was training for the Olympics as a 24-year-old. I was living at the Olympic Training Center under lock and key. From, I guess, 24 until 27, I lived at the Olympic Training Center. I wasn't allowed to have people visit me after 10 p.m. I had to sign in my guests. It was just ridiculous. No alcohol, obviously, no drugs. But it was something that I wouldn't do if I was any of you, because you have to enjoy the journey. You have to be able to look back and say, wow, I tried to achieve this goal, but look at what I did, look at everything that I did. And if you're not enjoying the ride, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And that's just mindfulness, I guess, in its definition, and really taking to heart the responsibility of enjoying this life that we've been given. You have to appreciate the moment that you're in, everything that you have, because it doesn't get better than that. You got to create your own situation. So yeah, that's really all I have for you guys. I just want to end my story with, if you don't take anything out of tonight, just remember, if you're ever really nervous in a situation, just bend over, right? Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.